So, as you know, this is football season or just around the corner. But I have a very special guest, and he is the founder of BullRush. And we're going to know more about that a little bit later. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Trent Hoerr to the interview. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Sean. I like the clapping. That's good. Good FX.
Yes, yes, yes. It is great that I have my great old microphone with me as well since I built this podcast studio. So now, since football season coming, I can actually talk as usual. I'm so happy. So, I would like to know what is Bull Rush?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Bull Rush, in the most simple forms, we blend fantasy football and sports betting into what I like to deem as fantasy betting. So it's similar to a poker tournament where you either join a free or paid entry competition. We give you a virtual bankroll to go place real picks with. So money lines, total points, spreads, player props, over unders, they're all part of it. And then you bet over a period of time with this virtual money, and whoever has the most or largest bankroll at the end of it wins the real cash prize. And so we just blend literally fantasy sports and sports betting into fantasy betting.
Oh, that's very terrific because I remembered 4 years ago there was a app was called Super Draft. There was a Super Draft DFS and there was a Super Draft Sportsbook. Because in the Super Draft Sportsbook, like you were just mentioning about the over under, it was like the same thing. The only difference was it didn't have like the future odds. Now, does Bull Rush have like the future odds? For example, like let's say like they have the Chicago Bears like 6.5 win totals or something like that. Does Bull Rush have something like that?
So we don't have the futures, and part of that is due to the regulations around it. So our competitions are a set duration, and
Okay.
it has to fit within that time window. And so most of our competitions last one, they're weekly or maybe playoff long, but it's not just for the end of the season. But unlike just over unders, ours operates more like a traditional sports book. The big difference is it's not real money. It's all
Right.
virtual. It's all fantasy. You're not betting real money. But it's more than just over unders. If you go to like an underdog or prize picks, you're just doing over unders inside of there. Will this player score more than this point? Or will, there be more than 4 touchdowns this game? Where ours is more traditionally like a sports book where you see money lines, spreads, total points, all the player props in there. And to me, I think that's actually more skill based because now you get to make predictions on, will this person score more than 10 touchdowns, let's say, but then how much are you willing to go and wager that that person will actually score more than 10 touchdowns? And so it gets much more granular than like what a traditional fantasy app or traditional over under app would provide.
Now, one thing I always say, like since I have my website since 586 been around since last year, it's actually been last year. We try to be different than your usual, like the prize picks, fan duels, and all those other apps. So my goal is to have different apps that nobody has not even heard of, and then promoting it. That's what makes it different than the rest.
Nice. Yeah, no, we always appreciate the love. Obviously, any new brand that's in the space, the more publicity and the more things that get out there is sort of how apps go viral. And that's our anticipation as well. We think, obviously, once people hear about BullRush, they play the game, they'll realize like why this is sort of the wave of the future. And I think we'll easily go compete with the underdogs, the prize picks of the world here in a couple of years. It obviously just takes a little bit of time to grow and
Right.
scale up to that.
Now, I did see while I was signing up, I did see that you guys are doing a NFL Survivor Pool tournament because I noticed 5, 6 years ago, you hardly ever heard anybody ever do Survivor Pool. But since after COVID, you're actually hearing a lot more about Survivor Pools than just ever. And it's been exploding ever since. I feel like after COVID, it's just Survivor Pool just took off all of a sudden. Because before then, before COVID, you hardly ever mentioned Survivor Pool. People didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I started doing survivor pools. Probably 2012 was the first one I ever played in. And I like them personally. So the way we're doing Survivor is a little bit different. And I guess to answer your question, or to go back to that, I think the reason why it blew up so much is because Circa started doing like the $15 million
Right.
Survivor pool, and once they got into it's like, hey, it's $1,000 buy-in to get into it, and it's $15 million payout. That really propelled because a lot of the professionals got into the space and started really going after the survivors. Um, with ours, it's a little bit different, but it still has the same core philosophy of, hey, you need to outlast all your competitors. And so the way that our Survivor works is it's 20 rounds. Rounds 1 through 19 are 1 week in duration, following the NFL schedule. Round 20 is for the entire NFL playoffs, including the Super Bowl. And you have to be in the top 80% of bankrolls each week to keep progressing. So if you fall in that bottom 20% in any given week, you're eliminated and you're from the competition. And then, the other participants move on until ultimately you reach round 20 where the winners are crowned and the cash prizes are allocated.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned Circa because when I before like I never heard of Circa Sports until they did a Survivor pool. That's and like you said, I know this year they're supposed to give out like the biggest jackpot so far in Survivor pool because they got in different formats. And actually, matter of fact, you can actually watch them on YouTube because they actually got people from different countries actually playing it. But I'm glad that you're actually doing something like that. Now, how long has Bull Rush been established?
Yeah, so we've been working on the project for a long time. The idea initially came in 2021. I was told by our lawyers that no, you absolutely cannot go do this. You're going to need to get a full-on gambling license to go do this in the U.S. And my other businesses were taking off at the time, and so I sort of shelved it. But like any other entrepreneur, when you get an idea stuck in your head, it just sort of eats at you, and you have that always feeling like you got to go do this, or you're never gonna like be able to sleep at night. That's the feeling that I got. And so I shelved it in 2021 until sort of the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, where I had the initial thought of, okay, let's just go to Curacao and get an offshore license and just exclude the United States altogether and just focus on international for the time being. And so I ended up scoping out exactly what BullRush was at that time, and it's so much more than just sports picking competitions and multi-participant trading competitions. It's a full-on gamified system with badges, experience points, certificates. All of that is built into BullRush. And so I then wrote that. I gave it to the lawyers, and they said, "Oh, well, a lot's changed in the industry. As long as you can demonstrate that what you're offering is a game of skill, then you can go and you can apply underneath the DFS side of things and fall into the game of skill category, which is ultimately what we did. And that process took about 18 months. In addition to building out all the technology, so everything in the system is built in house by our team. So all the technology, everything that you see is custom code built from the ground up, specifically to operate this business. And that's a long-winded answer to say that we officially launched in September of last year. So we're almost 1 year old. September 10th of
Okay.
last year was our official kickoff date. And we officially launched the sports side in May of this year. And it's
Okay.
been rapid growth. So this is our first NFL season, and we're looking forward to it. The NFL community has welcomed me in very graciously, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank God I actually found Bull Rush. Now, the funny thing about this was the first time I actually saw Bull Rush was actually on Instagram. I think, yeah, it was on Instagram, and then I checked out the platform. I was like, hey, we already got Splash Sports since because it's been around since last year, and now since it's available in Michigan for Bull Rush, it's like it's even more exciting. So, with that being said, is because the last time I actually did over unders was like 2 years ago. So now with you guys doing it, it's even more funner because I could do college, NFL, NBA, the list of sports you can think of. So I'm very excited that I actually can do like I did 2 years ago.
Yeah, and ours are so one of the big things that separates us from like a splash sports, again, is ours isn't just over unders. You also can do money lines, you can do total points, and ours is not based off a point system. It's based off of
Right.
a virtual bankroll. And so it very much mimics, like an online poker tournament, because you get your virtual $100,000 and you get to figure out how you want to go allocate that. Do you want to put, I don't know, 50 virtual dollars on some massive parlay that pays out $100,000, or do you want to be a little bit more conservative? Do you want to, put a bunch of $5, picks down the board on some surefire winners, or do you want to just put it all in on one, hey, the Bears are going to cover the spread this week. I'm going to put my whole $100,000 on that. And so there's a lot of skill and strategy that goes into it. And I think it's much more than just the over-under side. It allows for all these additional elements of skill baked into it.
I do have a history of doing that, especially when it comes to virtual coins. I do have a history of doing that, especially when they be like, oh man, 4.5? Oh, I'm taking it. I do have a history of doing that. And 9 times out of 10, it actually pays out to do that.
Yeah, no, I can see that. So, yeah. So, do you prefer personally? Do you prefer more over/unders, or do you do more the traditional sports book side of things?
Well, I actually do the virtual, and more than likely, I actually do player props. I actually do a lot of player props. Even though I do play it virtually, I do play a lot of player props. But I will do some over/unders. It depends on what the game is and who the quarterbacks and vice versa.
Nice. So yeah, all in BullRush, all those player props are built in. We didn't get them for the preseason because we couldn't get the odds
I
for
did
them,
see that.
but they are there for the regular season. And so it's how many field goals, how many will there be touchdowns in the first quarters, all the in game over unders as well. Will this player score more than 2 touchdowns? How many yards receiving will they have? All of that is in there.
Now, I did also see while I was signing up for an affiliated partnership because we are a partnership with BullRush. For those of you haven't known about that, what is prop trading? Because I've never heard. Because it's something new I've heard before.
Yeah, so that's the core business that sort of helped propel what BullRush is. But I launched a company with 2 other partners that was the first ever CRM system to the retail prop trading space. And so what that is effectively, how do I describe this so somebody that doesn't know? It's effectively, there's a lot of people out there that want to trade and be full-time day traders, but they don't have the means or resources to go do that. And so there's companies that traditionally were prop trading firms. That's where I started my career at, where I would go, I worked for them, I traded their capital. They're like, hey, you have $100,000 of our capital to go trade with, and you'll keep a revenue share of whatever you make. If you lose any money, we'll eat the whole losses. You don't have to pay us anything. And so in 2012 and leading up to 2015, this concept of retail prop traders really popped up because there was such demand. There's so many people out there that want to be full-time day traders. The difference is to do that, it is, hey, I'll let you trade my money, but first you must pass an assessment. And to take that assessment, you need to pay a fee for it, $1,000. And we'll put you on a demo trading account after you pay that fee. If achieve the metrics that we're looking for, we then move you to live trading. And so what BullRush does on the prop side is specifically that, where we are one of the only retail prop firms in the world and the only one on the over-the-counter markets that actually puts traders into the real market. And so once you pass our assessment in level 4, you are now trading in the real markets with real capital, where a lot of the other firms and a lot of the other firms on the future side, and then all of the other firms on the FX side, they don't do that. They just basically treat it like a video game where it's all virtual and you never actually trade real money.
I'm a big for believer in this product because along with that, and then also the DFS part of it, and like you said before, like you're using virtual money. I'm a firm believer that a lot of people actually like this platform. And I also downloaded the app because I do have an Android. So if you have like a iPhone or Android, you can actually download it.
Yep. So it's coming to the App Store soon. But right now, yeah, you just go from any mobile device and it'll guide you and prompt you on how to actually download that to your phone. We are working on the mobile app right now. As you know, and most people that don't know, is getting in the App Store and staying in the App Store is a very challenging process. So we didn't want to hinder the product by waiting on just doing an app. And so we launched a web app to start, to make sure that we could get BullRush out there, because this type of product is in such high demand right now, and we're coming back and putting it in the App Store. And so hopefully it'll be in the App Store by end of September, beginning of October is sort of the estimation that we're looking for.
But the great thing is, hey, at least you got the sports before football season. So that's all that matters, because without football on an app, sports app, is like, what's the point of even going it?
Yeah, it's amazing how many apps only do football. There's a ton of apps, whether it's betting or fantasy. They only do football. They've never added any other sports into there because the demand is so high. I forget what I read a stat today, and I hate doing this. If I don't actually know the stat, I normally write it down. But I think it was something along the lines like 36% of Americans bet on the Super Bowl last year. Don't
30.
Don't quote me specifically, but it's like 36% of Americans bet on the Super Bowl last year, which is just crazy. And it just shows you the popularity of NFL. And it's only rising, in my opinion, with the international games.
Oh, yeah.
I personally went to the Chicago Bears in London last year, in Tottenham, in the UK, and it was awesome. It was actually more fun, in my opinion, than all the games I've ever been to Soldier Field, which I've been to like 15. And that game was more fun.
Well, I do remember I did win. I actually, you know what? I did win a contest on the against the spread picks, because sometimes you'll be looking at it and you'll be like, hey, I like this number, and then when it plays out, I'll be like, dang it, I feel like a dunce.
Yeah. But
Now,
the good news is as long as you manage your bankroll properly, you always have a second shot at that.
Now, and I did say I am affiliated with BullRush. So let's say like somebody comes to my YouTube channel or Rumble or any other social media platform under my link. So if anybody signed up under my link, what will they get in return?
Yeah, that's good. Bring that up. So right now, what they get is they get a free $5 to start going and playing. So, for example, if they join our Survivor competition right now, it costs $100 to enter. They can have $5 off that by using your link, the 586 Sports. I believe is what your affiliate code is. And so it's really important to go through you versus coming directly to us,
Right.
Because they're going to save $5 if they go through you.
All right. Now, where can my listeners find BullRush on social media?
Yeah, so all of our handles are BullRush Comp. So BullRushComp. Across all, so Instagram, YouTube, Twitter are the primary channels that we focus on. And then our website is bullrush.com.
All right. Looking forward to working, guys, with you. And I'm back doing these sports picks over on the totals and the parlays.
Nice. Looking forward to working with you as well. I appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you like what you just saw, make sure you follow our social media pages and don't forget to visit our website at 586sports.com for the latest news in the sports world.